This is the only video you need to watch if you want to learn how to make a French 75 cocktail at home. My name's Raman Virpan. I'm a full-time medical doctor, and I've been a home bartender for over 5 years now. I teach other busy professionals how to make cocktails at home. And the French 75 is a classic cocktail invented in the year 1915 at the New York bar in Paris. And the reason it got its name is because it contains a unique combination of gin and champagne. And that combination was thought to be so powerful that customers that had the drink felt like they were being shelled by a French 75 millimeter field gun. And while I don't think the drink is quite that powerful, I believe that's personally, I believe that's quite an exaggeration. But I understand, 1915 was during World War I, and the drink was created in Europe, specifically in France, who was in the middle of the war. So, war was at the top of people's minds. Maybe it was soldiers specifically that came up with this name. But whatever the reason, I personally think French 75 is quite a unique and cool name. And I think it's a great name, personally. So even though it has kind of a weird origin, I think it's still great. And as I mentioned, the drink does call for champagne. So it's a great drink for big occasions like holidays, milestone birthdays, milestone anniversaries, weddings, things like that. I think it's a great drink for that. For me personally, it has extra special meaning because my first New Year's Eve as a home bartender, my friend was throwing a party and I went over to his place and I was the bartender for that party. And this was the drink that I chose to be the signature drink for that party because it contains champagne. And since then, I've actually made it at subsequent New Year's Eve parties, and it's essentially become my signature or go-to New Year's Eve drink. And as I mentioned, the reason is because it has champagne. So I think it's great for big occasions like that, big holidays like New Year's Eve and Christmas, things like that. So quite an interesting thing, actually, is that I don't believe I've ever made this drink outside of New Year's Eve. I think this is going to be the first time that I'm doing that. And, as I mentioned, this is a drink for celebratory, momentous occasions. I believe that me teaching you guys how to make this drink is such an occasion. And for me personally, I'm actually quite honored, and I'm quite okay with this being the first time outside of New Year's Eve that I've actually made this drink. I think that when you guys learn it, this can also become your signature drink for either New Year's Eve or some other big momentous occasion in your lives. So let's get into making the drink. The drink is actually essentially a gin sour that has the addition of champagne. So that being said, the ingredients are going to be gin, lemon juice, simple syrup, and then this is what I like to call champagne. In order for a sparkling wine to be officially called champagne, it has to be made in the Champagne region of France. Personally, I don't think you need to be necessarily that fancy or use that expensive or high quality of an ingredient for cocktails. When you're drinking champagne on its own, when you're doing like a New Year's Eve or a wedding toast, something like that, then go ahead, break out the good high quality stuff. When you're making cocktails, you want good, but you don't necessarily have to be amazing because, you're mixing the ingredient with other ingredients. So for this drink, you can use any type of sparkling wine. You can definitely use champagne, but you can use other sparkling wines. You can even use Cava or Prosecco. Personally, the sparkling wine that I'm going to be using is called a Brut, which is more on the drier side. I think that goes great with this type of cocktail. But that's also my personal taste. I generally like drinks that are more dry as opposed to sweet. So feel free to use whichever type of sparkling wine that you prefer. For the exact bottles that I'm going to be using, the gin is Beefeater, which is the prototypical workhorse gin for home bartenders because it's so readily available and affordable. This is the Santa Cruz Organic Lemon Juice, my absolute number one go-to bottled lemon juice. This is my own homemade simple syrup. For the first 2 years of my home bartending journey, I always use store-bought, so feel free to do that if you prefer. And then for the exact brand of sparkling wine I'm using, this is called Gruit or Groot. It's a type of American sparkling wine, so it's made from my home country, the USA. So by definition, it can't officially be called champagne because it's not made in France, and specifically in the Champagne region. So let's go ahead and make the drink. It's going to call for the ingredients in this following measurements: 1 ounce gin, ½ ounce lemon juice, ½ ounce simple syrup, and then finally 4 ounces of the champagne. Because champagne or sparkling wine is a carbonated ingredient, we're going to be using my signature sandwich method. What that involves is that you pour half of the carbonated ingredient first into the glass, then the other ingredients, and then finally the other half of the carbonated ingredient. So that essentially the carbonated ingredients are the bread of the sandwich, and the other ingredients are the meat and vegetables of the sandwich. Before we do that, let's actually put some ice cubes into the glass. I'm going to be putting about 3 ice cubes into the glass to start with. And then as I mentioned, it's gonna call for 1 ounce of gin, but before we do that, let's pour the first 2 ounces of champagne or sparkling wine into the glass. Just be a little careful. It's gonna be bubbly at the top, so you want it to settle so you get the accurate measurement when you're using these. So that's the first 2 ounces of the champagne. Then 1 ounce of gin. Half an ounce of the lemon juice. And finally, half an ounce of simple syrup. I'm pouring these in the shaker because this does contain syrup and lemon juice, so I want to make sure these ingredients get incorporated well. So half an ounce of simple syrup. And then just in order to get a good seal on the shaker so you don't spill any ingredients, I'm going to be putting another ice cube into the shaker. This allows you to get a better seal because the coldness of the ice kind of holds the metal together. So make sure you give it a good seal like this. Shake for about 8 to 12 seconds. And then I already have ice in here, so I'll be just straining it so I don't pour that extra ice on top. And then finally, you need an additional 2 ounces of champagne or sparkling wine. And again, let the bubbles settle out so you get an accurate measurement. And there you have it, the French 75. Cheers. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel below. I'm going to be doing tons of more videos on bartending tips and tricks and also specific tutorials for specific cocktails. Thank you.